T changes. I guess the thing with me and this is that I did research the hell out of testosterone before I started, which I certainly recommend to people. So, there wasn't a huge amount of things that I was unprepared for or that I didn't expect. I think if you have researched things thoroughly and you understand what's in store for you from looking at other people's experiences and reading about the sorts of changes that you should expect, then you shouldn't really have too many things that catch you off guard. And that's generally a good place to be at because it's already a very, demanding process transitioning. So having all of these unexpected things happen because you didn't research thoroughly enough and look into things and talk to people and, ask the right questions, then it can throw you a little bit, and you just don't really need that. So, I'd say look into things, and so that there aren't too many surprises. But that said, there are still things that did surprise me. Probably one of the big things that I hadn't expected was that my anxiety levels would drop so significantly. I had some pretty substantial issues with anxiety before starting testosterone, and it's been like a kind of a lifelong song for me, anxiety. So, although I've had a lot of therapy around it and have developed some pretty great skills in dealing with it when it comes along, I still would get the occasional out of the blue kind of anxiety, and I'd expected that testosterone being more of a stimulant sort of hormone to estrogen, which is classically considered, kind of like a chill out sort of, or, more emotional, more kind of water sort of hormone, whereas, testosterone is like the fire stuff. I'd expected to feel more pumped up and hence more prone to anxiety. And I was very happily surprised to find that, if anything, my anxiety levels have dropped so much as to be that I very rarely suffer from any kind of anxiety. Sure, it has a lot to do with the fact that pre-transition there was other issues with being viewed as genderless and having this sort of social stigma attached to being a a person who looked sort of questionably either gender. That carried with it quite a lot of anxiety for me. So not having that there has certainly reduced my anxiety in itself. But even before I was passing, fully as male all the time, there was a period, I think, just in the beginning of starting T, where I just started to feel a great sense of calm. And when I'm low on testosterone, towards the end of my cycle and the estrogen levels start creeping up, I feel much more prone to anxiety, and as soon as I get that shot, I'm back on even street, and I'm feeling like really kind of just calm, and just like things don't bother me as much. I can deal with them when they do a lot more easily. Yeah, so it's been amazing in that sense. I feel like it's my own sort of anti-anxiety medication. It's interesting from a sociological perspective to think of the fact that men in some sense have this hormonal advantage, and it makes them sort of generally a lot more relaxed and less prone to freakouts. I know this is a major generalization, but it's certainly been my experience. And like I said, when there's hormonal fluctuation, especially towards the end of the cycle, I do get anxiety levels rising. So, what else? I guess my lower growth, I was expecting that to grow, but I didn't really imagine that it would happen so quickly, or that it would be one of the first things that happened. I think that started to change within the first, week to 2 weeks. And that was surprising. I guess you can look at other people's photos of other guys' junk and whatever, and you can get an idea of what might happen, but it's all very individual. So I guess navigating that new body and the way that it works was a learning curve. That was sort of like, oh right, okay, so it does things in a different way. So I suppose that leads into the next thing that was a little unexpected, and I guess these things are unexpected because people don't talk about them very much, because they're a little bit more private and personal. But in terms of like sex drive and stuff, I was expecting my sex drive to grow. I haven't had sort of a major sex drive for the last maybe 4 or 5 years. I was hesitant to imagine that it was going to go up dramatically, and I've kind of found that, unlike a lot of other guys that I talk to who are like very kind of horny all the time and are looking, for people to hook up with in a kind of a very serious way, I am not really interested I'm just not really focused on like having sex with someone and like I'm really needing it or anything. I personally, I kind of, the way that it's affected me is not that I'm like desperate or anything for sex. It's more that that certain things that before maybe wouldn't have affected me are having immediate sort of effect on my body. So as well as like waking up with an erection and going at different times in the day, just like, man, I could just like look at a magazine on the rack with like a girl's rack on the magazine and have this very instant physical response to it, sort of almost separate to my mind. Like my body responds before my mind has even had a chance to register. So that's been interesting and surprising. I think that also feeds into the way that I view pornography has changed quite substantially. And again, this is a topic you don't really want to put on a video for the whole world to see. But I can just say that my observation has been that, if any of you out there have ever studied like film theory or anything, you'd be familiar with the term the male gaze. This term sort of refers to the fact that a lot of cinema is designed for a male audience and for a male perspective. So like a lot of horror films are designed for a male gaze to satisfy certain things that are sort of deemed like classically part of the male psyche and perspective. And that, when women watch them, they have a very different response. So with that in mind, I can say that pornography is 100% designed for the male gaze. I think you'll find that, you'll find sort of small avant-garde kind of porn production companies who do stuff designed for a female gaze, but it's very rare. And basically, the majority of porn is designed for a male gaze. And having watched that pornography as a female hormoned person, I can say that it had a very different effect on me to when I watch it now. I can sort of understand more why certain things appeal, and they appeal to me in a way when they just never would before. Certain things that turn me on that just didn't ever turn me on before. In fact, I may have been totally repulsed by them. Oh, again, not like anything too crazy, but what I'm saying, like your whole way of interacting with erotic stimulus is different. And I think as well, I suppose something else that's surprising is just that when you start transitioning, it didn't happen very quickly for me, but I guess probably it's been like nearly 15 months or something into T now, and I can say that my way of viewing people and gender has changed. I think previously, as someone who's always been attracted predominantly to women, I felt that like my attraction to women was very solid, and hence I pretty much just ignored men altogether. If I walked into a room, I didn't really notice if there was like really handsome guys there. I didn't really feel like I was competing with these like really handsome guys for a girl, even though I've always sort of dated straight girls and bi girls. I've never dated lesbians, so But I still would walk into a room and just like look at the women and just think I had a pretty good chance, you know. That sounds arrogant, but I think now it's like now I'm one of the guys and I look at men in a very different way. I enjoy their company in a way that I didn't before. I feel like that's also because I have a lot more in common with them, but you know, because I get their perspective more and I can see that I can see their attractiveness and their yeah. So I guess the way that that you know I walk into a room now and I see like a whole bunch of handsome guys and I'm like, shit, he's a real handsome guy. Like, and there's this cute girl. Like, you know, I'm competing with all these guys and you know how do I kind of stack up and stuff. Like that sounds dumb, but you know, it's just mean that that I notice men more and hence like I think I've realized that men have a lot to offer and are interesting in different ways to women and also how irrelevant gender is. And before, I think I was really fixated on gender, and it's sort of a curious thing for someone who's actually taken the decision to medically transition to a different gender because they feel like gender is so important, and yet to then discover that gender isn't that important. In two ways, it's important. Like, you know, I see that people are valid and interesting in different ways, and that men and women have different things to offer. And I personally feel comfortable and at peace with myself in a male form. That works for me. But I'm sort of growing to understand that both men and women have like different attractiveness, and I kind of am getting that attractiveness more. So, you know, I wouldn't say like I'm necessarily, you know, I've never categorized my sexuality ever really before. I find it limiting, but you know, I'd say that my ability to see beyond genitalia and just see, you know, erotic sites, so to speak, is growing and changing a lot, and it's exciting, and I'm open to it. It's interesting. I don't, you know, I'm not sort of suggesting any conclusion from that, but I can sort of understand now why people often, you know, have a change in their sexuality during transition, and I think that it's more to do with an opening of your perspective on the world than it is to do with something testosterone is fundamentally doing to you, like it's turning you gay or something like that. I think that's probably quite enough from me. I could probably go on and, you know, news on tea and changes and all of that type of stuff, but I've covered quite a bit of ground there, so you know, I hope this video on porn and bloody sexuality doesn't get out too far. Hopefully not to any of my workmates, but I hope you're all well, and I'll catch you next time.